The dining room fell silent except for the clinking of silverware against fine china. I sat at the far end of the mahogany table, the seat closest to the kitchen, while my family occupied the positions of honor. My older brother Marcus held court at the head, where our father once sat, his tailored suit catching the light from the crystal chandelier. My sister Victoria sat to his right, her diamond earrings glinting as she laughed at something their spouses had said. I was 28 years old, and I had become invisible in my own family. "So, Ryan," Marcus said, his voice carrying that familiar edge of condescension, "still playing around with your little computer projects?" I looked up from my plate, meeting his eyes. "I'm working on something, yes." Victoria snorted delicately, dabbing her lips with her napkin. "Working? That's generous. Mom, when are you going to stop enabling this? Ryan's nearly 30, and he's still living in that awful apartment, doing God knows what on his laptop all day." My mother sighed, her disappointment palpable even from across the table. "Your sister has a point, sweetheart. Marcus has his law firm. Victoria is a senior executive at Henderson Corp. According to YouTube analytics, 99% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Even your cousin Jennifer just made partner at her accounting firm. We just want to see you succeed." "I am succeeding," I said quietly, but my words disappeared into the conversation like stones dropped into deep water. "Succeeding?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "You dropped out of business school, you've had what? 5 different jobs in 6 years? And now you're doing this startup thing that nobody understands. Do you even make any money?" "It's not about the money right now. I'm building something that matters." "Oh, here we go," Victoria interrupted, rolling her eyes. "The building something that matters speech. Ryan, grow up. You're an embarrassment." "Do you know what I tell people when they ask about my brother? I talk about Marcus. I pretend you don't exist." The words stung, but I'd learned to absorb them. This wasn't new, since our father died 5 years ago, leaving the bulk of his estate to Marcus and Victoria. I'd been relegated to the role of family disappointment. What they didn't know, what I deliberately kept from them, was that my little computer project was already changing lives. 3 years ago, I'd founded Sentinel Technologies, a cybersecurity firm that developed AI-driven protection systems for small and medium businesses. I'd used the small inheritance my grandmother had left me, worked 100-hour weeks, and built something revolutionary from nothing, but I'd learned early to keep it quiet. When I first told my family about my plans, Marcus had laughed until he cried. Victoria had called it adorable, and my mother had looked at me with such pity that I'd wanted to disappear. So I'd gone silent. I registered the company under a holding entity, kept my name off the public materials, and let my CTO, Sarah Chen, be the face of the company. To the world, I was just another software developer. To my family, I was the failure who couldn't get his life together. "You know what the worst part is?" Marcus continued, warming to his subject. His wife nodded encouragingly beside him. "Dad would be so disappointed. He built everything from nothing, gave us every opportunity, and you just squandered it. You're proof that talent skips a generation." I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I should go." "Running away again," Victoria said. "That's all you ever do." My mother reached out half-heartedly. "Ryan, please. We're just trying to help." But I was already walking to the door, grabbing my coat from the rack. Behind me, I heard Marcus say, "Let him go. Maybe hitting rock bottom will finally wake him up." I drove back to my apartment through the rain, my hands tight on the steering wheel. The hurt was there, fresh and sharp, but underneath it was something else: determination. In 2 weeks, Sentinel Technologies was going public with our Series B funding announcement. We'd secured $40 million from 3 major venture capital firms. Our client base had grown to over 1,500 companies across North America. We were being courted by 2 Fortune 500 companies for acquisition talks. And my family had no idea. I told myself I wasn't keeping it secret for revenge. I'd kept quiet because I needed to prove something to myself first, to know that I could build something real without their validation or their money. But as I parked outside my building and climbed the 3 flights of stairs to my modest 1-bedroom apartment, I couldn't deny the small, dark satisfaction at the thought of them discovering the truth. The next morning, I met Sarah at our office. a converted warehouse space in the tech district that housed our team of 43 employees. She was waiting in my office, her laptop open, eyes bright with excitement. "Ryan, you need to see this," she said, turning her screen toward me. Tech Innovator magazine is doing their 30 Under 30 Tech Founders feature. They want you on the list. You specifically, not me. I'd been avoiding press, avoiding any spotlight that might connect me publicly to Sentinel before I was ready. But Sarah had been pushing me to step forward, to take credit for what I'd built. "They'll want photos, interviews," I said, hesitating. "Yes," Sarah replied firmly. "And you'll give them what they want. Ryan, you can't hide forever. We're about to close our Series B. The acquisition talks are heating up. People are going to find out who's behind Sentinel. Don't you want to control that narrative?" She was right, of course. She was almost always right, which was why she was my CTO and closest friend. But the thought of my family seeing my face in a magazine, learning what I'd accomplished, filled me with a complicated mix of anticipation and dread. "There's more," Sarah continued, pulling up another email. "Henderson Corp wants to meet. They're interested in acquiring us, or, at minimum, becoming a major client. The meeting is with their executive team, Henderson Corp, where Victoria worked, where she'd been promoted to Senior Vice President of Operations just 3 months ago, at a dinner where she'd spent 20 minutes talking about her achievements while I sat silent at the end of the table." "When?" I asked. "Next week. Tuesday." I nodded slowly. "Set it up. And Sarah, tell the magazine yes, I'll do the interview." Over the next 10 days, my two worlds began their inevitable collision. The magazine interview happened on a Thursday. The photographer spent 2 hours getting the perfect shots of me in our office, surrounded by screens displaying Sentinel's security dashboards. The journalist, a sharp woman named Rebecca Torres, asked probing questions about my background, my education, my journey. "You dropped out of business school," she noted, checking her notes. "That must have been difficult." "It was the best decision I ever made," I said honestly. I was learning theory while I wanted to be building reality. My family didn't understand it then. I'm not sure they understand it now. "Are you close with your family?" I chose my words carefully. My family has very traditional ideas about success. Law degrees, corporate positions, climbing established ladders. I took a different path. That created some distance. She looked at me thoughtfully. "And now that path has led to a company valued at over $200 million, with technology that's revolutionizing cybersecurity for small businesses. Do you think they understand now?" "They don't know," I admitted. "I've kept Sentinel separate from my personal life. They still think I'm struggling, trying to make something work." Rebecca's eyes lit up. "That's an incredible angle. The family that didn't believe in you, who have no idea what you've accomplished. That's going to make a powerful story." I felt a twinge of unease, but I'd agreed to honesty. "I suppose it is." The magazine would hit stands the following Monday. The Henderson Corp meeting was scheduled for Tuesday morning. The timing felt like fate arranging its pieces on a board. Sunday evening, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Ryan, I'm calling about Thanksgiving next month. Victoria is hosting this year, and she wanted me to confirm that you're coming. She's inviting some important clients, so she asked if everyone could please dress appropriately." The message was clear: don't embarrass us. "I'll be there," I said. "Good. And Ryan, sweetheart, have you thought any more about what Marcus said? About maybe going back to school, getting a real degree? He has connections at several universities. He could help you." I closed my eyes. "Mom, I'm doing fine. Better than fine." "I know you believe that, honey, but we can see you're struggling. That apartment, your old car. There's no shame in accepting help from family." "I'm not." "Struggling." "Of course." Her tone said she didn't believe me. "We'll see you at Thanksgiving. Try to be on time this year." After she hung up, I sat in my apartment, looking around at the space they found so disappointing. It was modest, yes, but I'd kept it deliberately so. Every extra dollar had gone into Sentinel, into growing the company, taking care of my team, building something lasting. The expensive apartment, the luxury car, those could come later. First came the foundation. Monday morning arrived with November rain. I was in my office early, working through code reviews, when Sarah burst in holding a magazine. "Ryan, have you seen this?" She handed me Tech Innovator, open to the feature spread. There I was, full page, with the headline, "Ryan Pierce, The Invisible Founder Revolutionizing Cybersecurity. The article laid everything out: my journey, my family's dismissal, Sentinel's success, the upcoming funding announcement. Rebecca had written it beautifully, painting me as the underdog who succeeded through pure determination. It's everywhere, Sarah said, showing me her phone. Twitter, LinkedIn, tech blogs. You're trending, Ryan. This is massive. My phone started buzzing. Notifications flooded in. LinkedIn connection requests, congratulatory emails, messages from old classmates and colleagues. And then a text from a number I didn't recognize. Is this the same Ryan Pierce from the magazine? Victoria Pierce's brother. This is Amanda from Henderson Corp. We're very excited about tomorrow's meeting. My stomach tightened. They knew now, or they would soon. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Marcus. Ryan. His voice was strange, carefully controlled. I just saw something I need to ask you about. There's a magazine article about someone named Ryan Pierce who founded a tech company called Sentinel. Same age, looks exactly like you. That's not you, is it? Some bizarre coincidence? It's me, I said simply. Silence stretched across the line. Then, you're telling me this company, this Sentinel Technology's worth hundreds of millions, that's yours? You founded it? 3 years ago. 3 years. His voice rose. You've been sitting at our dinner table, letting us lecture you, letting us call you a failure, and you've been running a multi-million-dollar company? You didn't ask what I was doing. You assumed. We assumed because you live in a dump and drive a car from 2009. I put my money into the business, into my team. This is insane. I could hear him breathing hard. Mom needs to see this. Victoria needs to see this. Victoria will see it soon enough. I have a meeting at Henderson Corp tomorrow. Another silence. You're meeting with Victoria's company? I'm meeting with Henderson Corp's executive team about a potential acquisition or partnership. If Victoria is part of that team, then yes, I'll see her there. Marcus made a sound between a laugh and a gasp. This is unreal. You've been playing us, making us look like fools. I wasn't playing anyone, Marcus. I was building something. You were too busy telling me I was a failure to notice. He hung up without another word. Within an hour, my phone exploded. Victoria called 6 times before I answered. You son of a bitch, she hissed. You let us mock you. You sat there at dinner and let us treat you like a charity case when you were secretly a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. The company is valuable, but I've taken almost no salary. And I didn't let you do anything, Victoria. You chose to treat me that way. Because you looked like a failure. You acted like a failure. I was building something. Just because you couldn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't real. Tomorrow's meeting is canceled, she snapped. I'm not letting you humiliate me in front of my entire executive team. You don't have the authority to cancel it, I said calmly. Your CEO set up that meeting because Henderson Corp needs what Sentinel offers. If you cancel it, you'll have to explain to him why you torpedoed a major business opportunity because of your ego. I could hear her furious breathing. You planned this. You planned all of this. No, Victoria. I just stopped trying to prove myself to people who'd already decided I was worthless. The rest happened naturally. She hung up. My mother called next, confused and hurt, demanding to know why I'd hidden this from her. I explained, patient but firm, that I'd tried to tell them early on, and they'd laughed. That I'd needed to build something real before facing their judgment again. She didn't understand. But she also couldn't deny that she'd dismissed my dreams. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I put on one of my 2 good suits, the one I saved for investor meetings. Sarah met me at the Henderson Corp building, a gleaming 40-story tower downtown. Ready? She asked. No, I admitted. But let's do this anyway. The reception area was all marble and glass. We were escorted to the 42nd floor, to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The Henderson Corp team was already there. CEO Robert Henderson, CFO Michael Chen, COO Patricia Williams, and Senior Vice President of Operations Victoria Pierce. Victoria sat stiffly in her chair, her expression carefully neutral. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. She wouldn't look at me. Robert Henderson stood, extending his hand with a warm smile. Mr. Pierce, Ms. Chen, welcome. We've been looking forward to this meeting. Your technology is impressive, and after reading yesterday's article, I have to say, your story is inspiring. Thank you, I said, shaking his hand. I nodded to Victoria. Good to see you, Victoria. Ryan. Her voice was frost. The meeting began with Sarah presenting our technology, walking them through Sentinel's capabilities, our client success stories, our security track record. She was brilliant, as always, fielding technical questions with ease. I spoke about our vision, our growth strategy, the market opportunity. Victoria remained silent throughout, her face a mask. But Patricia Williams and Michael Chen were engaged, excited even. They asked about integration timelines, pricing models, scalability. The question we're wrestling with, Robert Henderson said, leaning back in his chair, is whether to acquire Sentinel outright or become a major client and partner. Victoria, you've been quiet. You work in operations. How do you see Sentinel's technology fitting with our systems? All eyes turned to Victoria. I watched her internal struggle play out across her features, her professional judgment warring with her personal humiliation. The technology is solid, she said finally, her voice tight. It addresses real vulnerabilities in our current security infrastructure. From an operational standpoint, integration would be complex but manageable. She paused. It's good work. The admission cost her. I could see it. But she was too professional to sabotage her own company out of spite. High praise from Victoria, Robert said with a chuckle. She's usually our toughest critic. All right, let's talk numbers. The next hour was pure business. By the end, we'd outlined the framework for a partnership deal that would make Henderson Corp one of our largest clients, with an option to acquire within 2 years depending on performance. It was a huge win for Sentinel. As we gathered our materials to leave, Victoria stood abruptly. Ryan, can I speak with you? Privately? Sarah gave me a questioning look. I nodded. Give us a moment. The conference room emptied until it was just Victoria and me standing on opposite sides of the long table. Why? She asked finally. Why did you hide this from us? I told you about my plans 3 years ago, I said. You laughed. You called it adorable. Marcus said I was wasting my time. Mom looked at me like I'd announced I was joining the circus. So this is revenge? Making us look like fools? No, Victoria. This is just me succeeding despite your lack of faith. You made assumptions about my life without asking questions. You decided I was a failure because I didn't fit your definition of success. I didn't correct you because I didn't need your approval anymore. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears back. Do you know how humiliating this is? My colleagues saw that article. They know you're my brother. They know I had no idea what you'd accomplished. I look like an idiot. You look like someone who underestimated their brother. I said softly. That's on you, not me. We're family, Ryan. You should have told us. Family supports each other. Family believes in each other. You stopped being that kind of family to me a long time ago. She flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my life without judgment? When's the last time any of you considered that maybe I knew what I was doing? Victoria sank into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I don't know. I don't know when it started. After Dad died, Marcus and I we were so focused on living up to his legacy, on proving ourselves, and you were going in this completely different direction. It scared us, I think, made us defensive. It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. I get that, I said, sitting down across from her, but your fear doesn't excuse cruelty. All those dinners, all those comments about my apartment, my car, my little projects, that wasn't tough love, Victoria. That was contempt. She nodded slowly, tears finally spilling over. I know, God, Ryan, I know. And seeing you here today, so confident and professional, presenting to my CEO, being praised by my colleagues for work that I didn't even know existed. It made me see how badly we've treated you, how blind we've been. What do you want me to say? I don't know, that you forgive us, that we can fix this? I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She was successful, accomplished, everything our father had wanted. But in this moment, she looked small and lost. I don't know if you can fix it, I said honestly. But if you want to try, it starts with seeing me as I actually am, not as who you think I should be. She wiped her eyes, smudging her makeup. The article said you're still in that same apartment. I am. Why? You could afford so much more. Because that apartment is where I built Sentinel. Every late night, every breakthrough, every failure and recovery happened there. It's not a symbol of failure, Victoria. It's a reminder of what's possible when you believe in yourself. She let out a shaky laugh. I've been so stupid. Not stupid, just wrong. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Victoria said, Thanksgiving. Will you still come? Are you still going to treat me like a failure? No, she said firmly. Never again, I promise. Then I'll be there. The next few weeks were surreal. The Tech Innovator article went viral, picked up by major business publications. I did interviews, podcasts, speaking engagements. Sentinel's profile skyrocketed. Our Series B funding closed at 45 million instead of 40, with investors fighting to be part of our story. Marcus reached out, awkward and stiff, asking to meet for coffee. We sat in a cafe downtown, both of us uncomfortable. I owe you an apology, he said. A massive one. What I said at that dinner, what I've said over the years, there's no excuse. No, there isn't, I agreed. He winced. I told myself I was being honest, trying to motivate you, but I was just being a bully. I think I was threatened by you. Threatened by me? You did something I never could. You built something from nothing, just like Dad. Victoria and I, we inherited advantages, connections, money. We followed established paths. You actually created something new. That takes courage I don't have. I studied my brother. He'd always seemed so confident, so assured. Seeing him vulnerable was jarring. I don't need you to be impressed, Marcus. I just need you to respect me. I do, he said. Finally, I do. My mother was the hardest. She came to my apartment for the first time in 2 years, looking around with new eyes at the space she'd once dismissed. I failed you, she said simply. A mother should believe in her child, and I didn't. I let my fears and my own limited vision of success blind me to what you were accomplishing. You compared me to Marcus and Victoria. I was never going to win that comparison. No, she agreed, because you were doing something different, something harder. And instead of celebrating that, I made you feel small. She took my hands. Can you forgive me? Forgiveness was complicated. The hurt didn't disappear because they'd apologized, but they were trying, genuinely trying, to see me clearly for the first time in years. I'm working on it, I told her. We all are. Thanksgiving arrived cold and bright. Victoria's house was decorated perfectly, as always, but the atmosphere was different. When I arrived, Marcus met me at the door. Before you come in, I need to tell you something. We didn't invite any clients. This is just family. We wanted it to be real this time. Inside, the table was set, but I noticed my place setting wasn't at the end near the kitchen. It was between Marcus and Victoria, in the center of things. During dinner, Victoria raised her glass. I want to propose a toast, she said. To Ryan. We spent years telling you that you were a failure, that you needed to be more like us. We were wrong. You succeeded by being exactly yourself, by having the courage to follow your vision, even when no one believed in you. You've taught us all something about real strength, real success. We're sorry we couldn't see it sooner. Everyone raised their glasses. To Ryan. I felt emotion tighten my throat. This was what I'd wanted years ago. Their respect, their recognition. But the journey to get here had changed what it meant to me. Thank you, I said. But I need to be honest with you all. I didn't build Sentinel to prove you wrong or to make you respect me. I built it because I believed in it. And somewhere along the way, I realized that your approval wasn't the finish line I thought it was. My life, my success, it belongs to me, not to your validation of it. Marcus nodded slowly. That might be the most successful thing about you, that you figured that out. Later, as I was leaving, Victoria walked me to my car. The night was cold, stars brilliant in the clear sky. The Henderson Corp deal is going through, she said. The board approved it this morning. You'll be working with us long term. I know. Sarah got the confirmation email. Are you okay with that? Working with me after everything? I looked at my sister. Are you going to treat me like a colleague or like your disappointing little brother? Like a colleague, she said. Like someone I respect. I promise. Then we'll be fine. She hugged me then, suddenly and tight. I'm proud of you, Ryan. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm so proud of you. I hugged her back. Thanks, Victoria. That means something. Driving home through the quiet streets, I felt something settle in my chest. Not triumph, exactly. Not vindication. something closer to peace. 6 months later, Sentinel Technologies was featured in Forbes. The company valuation had crossed 300 million. We'd expanded to 5 cities, hired 150 employees, and were in talks with 2 Fortune 100 companies for major contracts. But the real change wasn't in the numbers. It was in the Sunday dinners that had become routine, where my family asked genuine questions about my work and my life. It was in Marcus calling to ask for business advice. It was in my mother showing up at my office with lunch, meeting my team, seeing what I'd built with pride in her eyes. The hurt they'd caused didn't disappear. Some words, once spoken, leave permanent marks. But relationships, I learned, could be rebuilt if everyone involved was willing to do the work. My family had been forced to see me clearly, not by my anger or my revenge, but by my simple determination to succeed on my own terms. The truth had revealed itself naturally, inevitably, the way truth always does. Karma hadn't needed my help. I'd simply lived my life with integrity, built something meaningful, and let the results speak for themselves. One evening, as I sat in my apartment, the same one-bedroom I'd refused to leave, working on new security protocols, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Did you see? Tech Innovator wants to do a follow-up feature. Where are they now? They want to focus on how your family relationships changed after the reveal. Interested? I thought about it for a moment, then typed back, no thanks. That story's private now. Let's focus on what we're building next. Because that was the real victory, I realized. Not proving them wrong, not watching them realize their mistake, but reaching a place where their opinion, while valued, was no longer the measure of my worth. I was successful, not because my family finally acknowledged it, but because I'd defined success for myself and achieved it. Everything else, their apologies, their respect, the restoration of our relationships, those were gifts I'd received with grace, but they weren't the foundation of my peace. The foundation was simpler and stronger than that. It was built by a young man in a modest apartment, working 100-hour weeks, believing in a vision when no one else could see it. It was built by every time I chose to keep going instead of giving up, chose dignity over bitterness, chose creation over revenge. That foundation could never be shaken by anyone's words, positive or negative, because I laid it myself, stone by stone, line of code by line of code, belief by unshakable belief. And in the end, that was the only success that truly mattered. The karma they'd experienced wasn't punishment I'd engineered or justice I'd sought. It was simply the natural consequence of their actions, meeting the reality they'd refused to see. They'd treated me as worthless and were forced to confront that they'd been wrong. They'd dismissed my dreams and had to watch those dreams surpass their own achievements. They'd created distance and had to live with the hollow place where our relationship should have been. I hadn't needed to orchestrate their realization or engineer their comeuppance. I'd only needed to live my truth with integrity and let time reveal what they'd been too blind to see. As I closed my laptop and looked around my apartment, soon to be replaced by a house I'd just purchased, not to impress anyone but because my life was expanding, I felt grateful. Grateful for the family who doubted me, because they'd pushed me to find unshakable self-belief. Grateful for the isolation, because it had taught me to stand alone. Grateful even for the pain, because it had shown me what I was truly made of. Success, I'd learned, wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about becoming who you were meant to be, regardless of who believed in you along the way. And that lesson, forged in dismissal and refined in solitary determination, was worth more than any family approval could ever be. The founder they'd come to admire was the failure they'd created through their contempt. But I'd taken that broken image and transformed it into something real, something valuable, something entirely my own. That transformation was my victory. Everything else was just the world catching up to what I'd always known. I was never a failure. I was just waiting for my time.